Hello YouTube, it's Rick from Clicky Designs. In this tutorial I want to explain how to use layers in Photoshop by creating this basic magazine cover. Now this design won't win any awards for best magazine cover, however I feel it's a great example to use when explaining positioning objects and how to allow text to sit in front and behind parts of the image. So without any further ado, let's get started. So here we are inside Photoshop. Now the first thing I'm going to do is create a new canvas. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to select Print because we want sort of an A4, and let's create it. So there we go, ready to go. Now let's insert our first image. There's a couple of ways to do this. We could go to New Layer, go to File, Place Embedded, and then we can navigate to where our image is and then place. Another way would be, let's start again, let's delete this layer, is we could actually do it the lazy way, which is the way I prefer, and that is go to your desktop and just drag it straight into Photoshop. So what we're going to do is use these handles here and just drag this out so it fits onto the page. So let's just scale this image, let's zoom out a bit. So we kind of want positioning to be about there should do, so we'll just hit return and that'll place the image. So there we go. So this is our first layer. Now I've already called this model, so I'm going to keep that, but if you did want to change the name, just double click on it and change the name to whatever you want to call it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, which is adding the text. So let's go to add a new layer here in the bottom. We'll click the text button on the far left, click anywhere on your canvas and start typing. So we'll put in Clicky Designs, and we shall move this and we shall scale it so it's a bit bigger. So let's make it about this big, hit return. Obviously we don't want it to be pink, so I'm going to double click on the little letter icon in the layer and let's change it to white. Perfect. So let's create the magazine bit. So again we'll go to New Layer, select the type tool, and let's start typing magazine. Looks a bit weird, let's change that to lowercase. Got caps lock on. Just using the arrow keys to sort of move it around. Now a great thing about layers, you can also convert them into a group to stay organized. So we've got Clicky Designs and the magazine here. Shift and click both layers, then click the little folder here which puts them into a group. Now we can call this header text. This helps keep things really organized. Okay, so let's add a new layer, and on this layer we're going to add a sort of little circle free guide pop out. So on the left I'm going to hold down, choose ellipse tool, I'm going to hold shift and draw a circle about that size. And now under properties we can see we've got the colour and the stroke, so we just want to change the colour of this, so let's make that white, pop it about there. Okay, so let's go back to the Layers tab. So we can see on this layer we've got one called Eclipse. Let's call this Circle, really imaginative. And then above that we want to create another layer, and this is for the text. So we want to call this Free Guide. Free Guide. Let's change the colour of this because you're not going to be able to see it when it's white. So let's pick the pink from my glasses. And then let's just move it into the center. Select both of these layers together by holding shift. Hit Control T, which then allows you to sort of just move the object around. Because we've got both layers selected, it'll let us move both at the same time. So let's move that to about there. Now we've got another little bit of text under this called page 10. And let's pop that there. Okay, so it's not perfect. Let's just straighten some of this text out a bit. holding Alt and up and down helps you create or reduce space between the text. Like so, and that'll do. So again, we've got some more layers here, and they're starting to build up a little bit, so let's group these 3 layers, which is the circle, the free guide, and the page 10. So we hit the folder again, and let's change this to free guide. Okay, so I guess no magazine cover would look right without some text here, like learning layers, some little ads, things like that. So let's add a new layer again, blank layer, and let's go to the text tool and just start typing anyway. It doesn't matter where we type because we can just move it. So let's put learning layers again, change this to white, and let's move that to where we want it. So we want it, say, about around here. Let's create another layer again above this. Now you don't have to keep adding layers this way. Let's delete that one. You could just grab the text tool, place it anywhere, and it creates a new layer for you. So that's another way of doing it. Now these 2 layers really should be in one group. So again, we'll hold Shift, select both layers, create a group, and we'll call this text 1 to be totally brilliant with imagination. Let's create the footer. So go over to the left side, and we'll hold down the shape tool and select rectangle. Let's create a footer at the bottom, and let's change its color to, let's use this pink that we've been using. Okay, cool. Now we want to insert a barcode. So let's do what we did when we first started the tutorial. Go to the desktop where I've saved my barcode image, grab it, drag it in, boom. Okay, it's a bit massive, so let's grab those handles again, shrink it down, just place it down in the bottom right there, hit return, there we go, it's in. Now I've already called the image barcode, so that's what it's named, the layer. Let's name this footer, call it footer. Okay, so let's add some text down the bottom as well. Now what we can do here, we can actually copy this text 1 group to save us some time. Now if we select this, as you can see up here, we have auto select group. So what this will do is it will automatically select anything that's within its group, so we can move it or we can copy it. So let's hold down Alt and just drag that text 1 layer and bring it down. Now you can see it's falling below the footer, so let's just leave it there for now. Let's rename this text 1 copy to text 2, and let's move it above the footer layer just by clicking and dragging. Now we can move this over the footer and place it where we want. Let's select both of these texts. Now this is all in the same group, so we've got auto select groups. Let's change that to layer and start automatically selecting parts within the group. So when we click, you can see it's changing between the layers now. So if we wanted to move this over to the left, we could, and just place it under there. If we wanted to move this up or down, we can. So it's really flexible. Okay, cool. The last thing we need to do is move this text behind this image. We've got 2 layers to play with here, so what we'll do is we'll select the model layer, we'll hit Ctrl J to create a duplicate, and let's name this head. Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy part of her head and bring it forward. So let's zoom in first so we can get a bit closer. Now we only really need to take this part here and separate it, so let's make sure the head layer is selected. We'll find the quick selection tool, which is here, and let's just start making a quick selection of this part of her head. Now that's kind of all we need for now. Let's just make sure we get all the individual hairs. Okay, so now we've done this, click the mask button, which is just here, and that will create a mask of her head. Now black hides everything apart from the selection we've made. If we remove the layer underneath, you can see we've selected this part of the head. So let's see what happens when we move this head layer over Clicky Designs. There you go, you see it's jumped above the text. So let's zoom out, and there you can see the head is now over the text. Now you can say if the text is a little bit too hidden, we can select by either clicking the text or the layer, and we can just use the arrow keys and just move this up a little bit so it's not affecting taking over too much of the text. But hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea on how layers work and how we can alter and move objects around the canvas. Okay guys, so that's about it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and leave your comments below, and thanks for watching.